Hi, I'm Jennifer, and welcome back to the Krewe of Japan podcast, a weekly podcast where we take you on audio journeys through Japanese culture. Welcome back to our podcast. In this episode, we're going to discuss the age-old debate in the anime community of whether you should watch anime in sub or dub. If you're not familiar with the inner workings of the anime community, for years there has been this debate of how anime should be enjoyed. Should you watch it in the original Japanese with subtitles, or should you watch it in dub with your native language? The anime community has been in a frenzy on who is wrong and who is right. We'll go over these ways of watching anime and bring some light into the world of dubbing anime that seems to be overlooked by many within the anime community. By the end of this episode, we hope the community can appreciate all forms of consuming anime and that everyone can enjoy their favorite anime in whatever format they choose. Let's get started. All right, and I am back with the crew. Hey guys.
Hey, I'm on mute.
Hey, what's up?
My bad.
Yeah, I was on mute too.
Yeah, that was so delayed. What the heck?
Yeah.
Gotta keep that in there, Nigel.
I know, right?
Anywho, so so I have us talking about anime once again because that's my jam. And today's topic is this age-old debate about this sub versus dub anime kind of thing. And for our listeners who don't know what in the hell I'm talking about, which I wouldn't blame you, it's this crazy thing. So, briefly, I'm going to explain sub and dub. So, sub anime is when an anime has the original Japanese audio, and there is a company that subtitles it for viewers outside of Japan. And then there is dub anime, where you take the original footage of the anime, you take the audio out, and you replace it with audio of your native language. So for our purposes, English. So there won't be any subtitles. You'll just be listening to your native language. And for some odd reason, the anime fandom has had this debate for quite a while now, it seems, which is better, sub versus dub kind of thing. And, short discussion, guys. In y'all's opinion, why do you think there is even such a debate? And should there even be a debate, honestly?
No, not really. There shouldn't be a debate per se. I mean, there's always going to be a debate, right? Star Wars versus Star Trek. Like Marvel versus DC. There's always going to be a debate because people want to make it a debate. But I feel like people just consume it however they like it. I mean, who cares? As long as you're enjoying it, right? So, I mean, that's my personal stance on it.
Yeah, and in terms of personal stance, yeah, I agree. I mean, however you like to consume, something you enjoy, go for it. But as far as why I think there is a debate, I think it comes down to, when people latch on to something that they really like, it is inevitable that when you have a form of like media and then there comes out a more, I guess, natural or authentic way, and I say authentic, I don't necessarily mean like this is the real way, but more so
Pure.
The original way that it was released, there becomes like a sect of purists, and Jen, we were talking before the episode, and you said you don't really even like the word purist because what does it even mean, and
sorry, Jen,
I think
I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah. No, but I was
totally
going to say
fine,
it
because
anyway.
people use that word and it just drives me nuts because I'm like, shut up, just what does that even mean? Like, just stop.
No.
Right. So yeah, in the end, I feel like it comes from this innate, sense of, well, I consume the media in the way it was intended, and so therefore I consume a more pure form of this. And maybe that's wrong, but I feel like that's what I get from a lot of people.
But that's the thing. It's intended in the quote unquote pure way. It's intended for a Japanese audience because it's in Japanese. Whereas for us, honestly, let's think about this. All the people who are making this debate and claiming like sub is the only way to watch anime, I don't know why they're thinking this, because anime introduced to Americans, to us, it happened on TV where, oh, look at that, it's in dub. Like Dragon Ball Z.
Definitely
What did y'all
dubbed, yeah.
watch it in?
Yeah.
Toonami.
Yeah.
Those early days, yeah.
Toonami, everything was in dub.
When it was introduced, yeah, it was.
But like early 2000s, even the 90s, like TV was a big source for anime for us in the States. The internet really wasn't like super popular just yet, or it wasn't like as powerful as it was now.
Yeah.
So you know, I got introduced to anime with dub. I watched tons of dub back in the day. So I just don't understand this whole debate. It's really stupid in my opinion. But I understand where it comes from. I really do. And I appreciate the original, subs I appreciate.
Yeah, same.
But I pretty much how I consume anime is, if an anime comes out right then and there and I have the streaming site and I'm able to watch it in sub right then and there, I'll do it. I'll watch it in sub. If, say I don't watch the anime immediately when it comes out and, the dub finally comes out, I'll watch the dub. I don't care. I really, really don't. So I can do either. And like I said in the first episode, my husband, he's a big dubber. He does not watch sub anime at all. So if I want to watch anything with him, which is a rare occurrence, but when it happens, I love it. It has to be in dub. So, I mean, that's just how it is. And honestly, in my opinion and in my experience, sometimes I watch the dub first, and sometimes like my husband, he gets in moods for anime, so sometimes he's not in the mood and I am, so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna start watching it without you. And so I watch it in sub and I try to switch. Sometimes I can't do it because the sub voices just drive me nuts and I can't get used to it. I'm like, oh my god, give me dub again.
I just
So
want to
that's
clarify. You said sometimes he's not in the mood for anime and you are. So are there times where
correct.
you are not in the mood for anime? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
that's the problem. I'm
suggesting?
always in the mood for anime. Yeah,
Okay,
no,
all right.
I was about to say,
I don't have that problem.
no way.
I
No
thought we caught you
way.
slipping for a second. I just want to verify.
No, but so that's how I consume anime. How do y'all consume anime? What's y'all's preference?
So for me, and it does not come from the purist aspect, but I usually consume it subbed, but for the reason of I want the immersion aspect of
Mm,
sharpening and practicing Japanese. But if I am going to passively just put on an anime in the background, sometimes I'll do dub. And it's funny for me if it's a show that I like initially started dubbed, I usually continue it dubbed.
yeah,
If it's a show that I started subbed, I'll continue it sub.
yeah.
Because going between them is a little jarring for
It
me.
is. It is.
Yeah, it's hard to make that jump
Yeah, exactly.
because you start associating those sounds with those characters, and then if they,
Yeah. Because I remember when I first started watching My Hero Academia, I started in dub because my
Yes,
husband was
same.
like, "Yes, let's watch it." And I was like, "Awesome! I finally have a series that you'll watch." And then he stopped, and Twitter was going crazy about some kind of like reveal that happened in one of the seasons. I was like, well, I'm not waiting on you. I'm going to continue watching. So I watched sub and I was like, ew, I can't do this. So I had to wait until dub came out.
see, I've actually jumped back and forth between sub and dub for My Hero
Wow,
Academia,
talent.
only because like the subs or the dub stopped, and then the subs
Mm,
kept coming out, so I just wanted to like watch more,
yeah.
and I didn't have as much of a problem with it. I guess maybe it took me
Okay.
in the beginning, I guess, just getting used to because it was different, but
Yeah.
I felt that it wasn't too hard to switch. But I kind of agree. Like if you start with one, I usually stick with it. Like
Yeah.
my the Attack on Titan, I usually watch at night before like I go to bed or whatever. If I'm doing something, I'll put that on. But I can't, I need that in dub because I don't feel like at night when I'm tired,
Yeah. You
I
don't
don't want
want
to read. Like my eyes
yeah.
are just not. I just want to like take it in.
Even when you're
So
like not even just like tired, like say like you're eating and you want to watch anime while you're eating, sometimes like you look down to like make sure like you're grabbing like the right food, and then you're gonna
Yeah,
miss you're gonna miss the subtitles. So I don't know.
yeah.
I find that dub anime comes in really good handy sometimes, honestly. Just saying.
Yeah, it does. It does. And there are the purists, and then like I do just want to mention briefly that there are people who watch sub for other reasons, and some people just
Oh yeah,
like it.
definitely.
like I said, I actually watch it for like Japanese practice.
Same.
But sometimes I'll go
Same.
with dub too. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of people out there, but the debate comes between purists and people who don't care
Yeah.
about that.
Now, question. Only one, so this is like a big question. What is your favorite dubbed anime?
Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, Dragon
Ugh.
Ball Z for Nigel. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. How about you, Doug?
I was gonna say Dragon Ball Z too. Just because that was the
I
first.
mean, you can.
That was my first. You know, like my first big one. Oh, I guess Pokemon technically was my first, but um, yeah, I'd probably say Dragon Ball Z just because it played such a pivotal role.
Awesome.
What's yours, Jen?
Well, my first knowing anime, like knowing I was watching anime, was Inuyasha, and that dub is just fantastic. I literally cannot watch Inuyasha in sub. Like I've been doing the Yashahime in sub, which is the new sequel that they have with the kids, but old Inuyasha dub, best thing ever.
Solid.
I actually you just reminded me of one because it thought of Midnight. What was it? Toonami Block. I forget what
Yeah,
it's called,
Toonami.
but the night one, Cowboy Bebop, was also
Yep,
a really
Cowboy
good dub.
Bebop's a good one.
I felt like the characters and the voices just clicked
Yeah.
for me, anyway.
Netflix adaptation.
No,
I haven't watched it yet. I don't know. Maybe we should do an episode on live action adaptations. Ooh.
We could. I mean,
Yeah.
without like digressing too much, I've
Yeah.
heard positive and negative, more negative than Cowboy Bebop, but I'm gonna withhold my judgment until I actually watch it because I know again, purists like to pure, you know.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
So
fair.
That's fair.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, to help us really, understand the workings of creating dub anime, and really just giving us like the details on dub anime, we had a wonderful interview with Dan Woren. He does a bunch of things, but we have him here as our expertise on anime voice acting. His best known role is his work in the popular anime Bleach. We discussed this in, like I said, season 1, the Golden Age. It's part of the big 3. He was the voice of Byakuya. So we had the pleasure of sitting down, Nigel and I, with Dan, and we had a great conversation on dubbing. So here it is. All right, so today we are with Dan Woren. He is an anime voice actor, but also does video game voice acting and some live action acting as well. And so we brought him here for his expertise specifically on dubbing for anime. Hi, Dan, how are you?
I am very, very good. Hi, Jennifer.
Thank you for joining us so much. We really appreciate you coming onto the podcast and kind of just sharing your experience with us.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Before we kind of jump into everything, can you give maybe our audience a little bit of history about you and who you are?
The history about me. I think that's in a book somewhere.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, I as you said, Jennifer, I work as a voiceover actor. I work on camera as well. I've been doing this for 30 plus years, and I'm so grateful and happy to be able to do something that I love and get paid to do it, and half the time be able to be like a little kid and get paid to be a little kid with all the different voices and things. So it's a tremendous, if you can find something you love and get paid for it, it ain't a job. And that's very much the case here. I'm just so grateful and delighted that I've had the opportunity and continue to. That's the other cool thing about doing voiceover work specifically. Very few people know who you are. You don't get seen that often unless you've got a huge name. And you can keep doing it forever if you want, basically, unless you get worse. And I don't think you would. I would think logically you'd improve over the years, hopefully. I'm hoping for that.
Well, you're doing a fine job, so.
Yeah, agreed.
I appreciate that.
So before we jump into the main topic, something that we ask all of our guests is to share their connection to New Orleans if they have one. So, have you ever been to New Orleans? And if so, what is your fondest, it could be funniest or most unique memory? And if you haven't been to New Orleans, when you hear someone say New Orleans, what do you think of?
Mardi Gras.
There we go.
Okay.
But I have
That,
yeah. been to New Orleans.
That's great.
There.
Okay.
Yeah. The last time, I think it's the only time I may have passed through once or twice, but I stayed for a weekend for an anime convention in 2010, I believe it was. And it was great. We had a wonderful time, except for one small detail on my end. In the airport on the way to get on the plane to come to New Orleans, I managed somehow to break my toe.
Whoa.
No.
I still don't know how it happened. And I didn't know it was broken for sure until I got off of the plane and tried to walk and get picked up and went, oh, this is not
Oh my
great.
gosh.
And I called my foot doctor and sent him a picture. I took a picture of it and sent it. He goes, yeah, you broke it.
Oh no.
You need to keep it up as much as you can. Stay off of it as much as you can. And don't. And I'm like, perfect. Great. Here I am. So, it was, I mean, I made it through. I didn't go on there's one of the tours of ghost houses or mansions or horrible places that people have killed or died. And I really wanted to go on that, but there was no way I was going to hobble along,
Yeah.
1,000 feet behind everyone else. So the one thing we did go out looking for and had quite a few of were Sazeracs. Have a very, very fond, it still tastes good in my mind, and it was great then. So anytime I go to New Orleans, I'll be looking around for more Sazeracs because that's a national drink from New Orleans, I think.
That's awesome.
And to do the ghost tour that you didn't get to do, right? So.
Yeah.
I know, dude. I was so disappointed because I really wanted to do that, but I just couldn't do it to everybody else and go, no, wait for me. I'm on crutches. Wait for me.
Yeah. Well, the ghost tours, they might seem like something that's like very touristy, but a lot of local people actually have done ghost tours too. So that's a pretty good, authentic thing that I don't know if you're like the type of person that's like, I don't want to do the most touristy things.
Well, no, absolutely. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good choice. And we're so sad to hear that, the mysterious broken toe.
It's just it was so bizarre.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. It's like, all right, fine. Here I go.
Dan, do you remember what anime convention it was in 2010?
Do you want to give me a name of a couple of them? If you know, I'll know it as soon as I say it.
Okay. There's an anime convention called MechaCon.
Mm-hmm. Go no further. It was MechaCon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
MechaCon?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
That was actually my first anime convention, so that's interesting.
Wait, the 2010 one?
Yeah, that was my first one.
That's pretty trippy.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's really trippy.
7 degrees of Kevin Bacon right here.
Yeah, I know, right?
But yeah, so that's cool. I'm glad that you were able to come to New Orleans and partly enjoy it.
Oh no, it was a good
toe.
time. Yeah, I just couldn't do as much as I wanted to do. That was all. But it was great. I have only positive memories.
That's awesome. Good. So to get into the topic, I want to start off by kind of helping us give the story of, how you started voice acting for anime. What got you interested in even trying voice acting for anime? Because I'm sure you could do other voice acting opportunities instead of anime. So like, how did you get started, and maybe like, what was your first role in anime voice acting?
Okay. I've always, enjoyed playing around with accents or silly voices or character voices, and that was just something that I have a little bit of an ability to do accents. I can hear things pretty well and repeat them. So that was just part of what I was, what I had carrying around with me, and I actually I started doing voiceover stuff, but it wasn't specifically anime. But this is part of the story. We'll get there. There was a company called Miller's Outpost, which was like the precursor to the Gap, and they were in a number of states, and I ended up being the spokesman for them on camera, and somebody, and that was for a few years in the early 80s, and like 1980 maybe, and somebody recommended me to someone else, kind of a thing. They said that they liked the work I was doing with the voice, because initially I started off as a voiceover job for that for Miller's Outpost, and then they liked me, and suddenly I was the on-camera talent, and there were a lot of fun spots because it was me and the two cowboys that would always interrupt what I was trying to do and give me a hard time and not realize they were even doing it. They were just sincerely a pain, and it was so much fun. So anyway, someone recommended me, and there was a studio at the time on Sunset called Intersound, and Intersound eventually ended up becoming Saban because Mr. Saban owned Intersound, and they were doing a lot of I'm not sure what the genre is, but they were Philippine movies with lots of violence, lots of mystical, weird stuff. 12-headed cannibals cutting off the heads. It was just really weird stuff, and they were looking for people to dub into English, and so I was sent over there and recommended or whatever, and I had no real experience with that, but with dubbing, if I think I've talked about this with a lot of my other voiceover folks, and it seems that people that have a musical background, because there's a rhythm within that you're working in, that rhythm translates well to dubbing, because you have to have a rhythm and to know when you're coming in, kind of a thing.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But I found that to be true. The people that are really good at it seem to either sing or play an instrument. Anyway, after doing some of that, the woman that was in charge that had brought me in, her name was Bird Ellman, and Bird was just this amazing, such a sweetheart. She was a large woman in the sense that she was like 6'3", and maybe even taller. Bird was tall, and she had been a Zen monk, and she was just brilliant. She was so studied about so many different things, and just an amazing woman. But anyway, she kind of became my benefactor in recommending me for some stuff that they were doing. It was a downstairs studio. There was the upstairs, and you went down the little stairway into this. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 different studios there down below. And so they were auditioning for a show called Dog Tanyan and the Three Muskehounds. And it was released in 1981. And there were a few people that are still doing this in there, including Cam Clark and Dave Mallow, and there was just a huge amount of folks. Michael Sorich, people that I continue to work with and continue to see, and I played Rochefort, who was the spy and Richelieu's second in command, and so it was a fun role to do because he was a bad guy and he was a dog. It was fun to do the dogs. So that was where I kind of got started, and it just kind of grew from there. That's a lot of stuff happened at Intersound, including the Roy Folker, including that. Intersound was a very special place, and it was crazy. And would this be a time to tell you about how it was back then, or is there another question that'll lead into that? Or I don't want to.
I mean, there's a question for that in a bit, but I do kind of want to see where anime came into play for this.
Well, that was anime.
Yeah. So then you just kind of just decided, anime is the track for me. I really enjoy doing this kind of thing.
Well, and on a couple different levels. It was a job, and I'll always say that. It was just like, wow, they're paying me to do this. This is so cool. So that was a big part of it, and it wasn't like I was looking for one particular niche to fall into. I'm still in the same boat that I will always look for other job opportunities, see what else I can do, what else I can play around with, because it's just so much fun to have that many different options, and also the potential of being hired increases quite a bit if you have a lot of different ways that you can be. So that was part of it, and it was just it was a lot of fun. It's a lot different, as we'll talk about. It's a lot different now than it was then.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a bad way, and there's some things that are better, and some things are like, that's too bad. Oh well.
Well, that's awesome. Man of many talents.
Yeah, we try.
Yeah. So what were your first impressions of anime before actually, I guess, getting that first gig? Did you even know what anime was?
I knew very little. So anime, because it has such an incredibly strong fan base. I guess you guys know that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. And so it's so cool to have kind of an instant feedback sometimes with a fan base. If you're doing something they like, they're very responsive, and vice versa. But it is a lot of fun, and just being able to put your voice to that particular animated character, knowing what originally the Japanese actor or actress did with it, and then trying to kind of match that, but also make it your own. It's another challenge, but it's just so much fun. That's the one of the coolest things, is that you get presented a creature, a character, a person that you get to inhabit and give a voice to, and it's so wonderful to be able to just pick something and they like it. It's like, wow, that's cool. I have so much fun. So yeah, I continue to say I'm a very, very lucky guy.
That's awesome. And you kind of brought it up, so we'll start with that. When you first started voice acting for anime, what was the process like, taking the anime's original Japanese and transforming it into an English speaking audience kind of medium?
Well, there's always the process would be somebody would get the script and adapt the script, and then a lot of the times the script adaptations were only so that the mouth might match, and a lot of times they weren't very good. The flaps of the mouth as the actor or actress is talking, or the creature or whatever, and so there would be somebody, the director would end up having to do rewrites and do changes a lot of the times on the dialogue, sometimes like every single one. It seemed like
Wow.
that's when it took a long time, when it was just like, oh, this is a horrible adaptation. Give me a minute, I got to rewrite this. And you just kind of sit in the booth going, or and you can make suggestions, and depending on who you're working with, and after a while, you're good at seeing what might fit there, what two words might work, that they've had 5 syllables for these 2 flaps, and you're like, no, blap 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 blap, no. So that was fun. Again, I say fun a lot, don't I? Isn't that fun?
But that's good. You have
But
fun.
it's true, yeah. So that was the first process. So you get the script, and almost always we were recording by ourselves. That hasn't changed a lot, but at the time there was also opportunities to work together, and sometimes, occasionally, you'd work off of the person that you were having a scene with. But very infrequently. Most often, one of you would record it before the other one, and if you're fortunate enough, the playing off of it would be hearing what they did and then replying to that as your character, so that you would have something. But a lot of the time, you wouldn't. If it's a privilege and a bonus when you actually have another actor to work off of, as opposed to just creating what their vibe is at the moment to bring out your own. So that was, and that continues to be, like I said, you're almost always recording by yourself. But back then, the major difference is that you had the director and yourself in the room, and there were 3 beeps. You had your headphones on, and there's 3 beeps, and then you would start talking on the unheard 4th beep, rhythmically. Beep, 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 talk. And so that told you where to come in. But in the beginning, they didn't even have the beeps. So those of us that have been around a while had to just learn to watch the mouth flap and listen to the director and know, okay, you start here, you give a hitch right over there about halfway through the sentence. You got a hitch. Okay, good. Now you go to that. And so it was more difficult, but at the same time, it was much more beneficial, because we became people that were really good at dubbing, based on having to really break it down, instead of having it so easy to go beep, beep, beep. Oh, I talk now. Cool.
Yeah, it's almost like you started on hard mode, and now
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
so good at the game that
Right.
you can play the game now.
Big time. So that was just that was a cool thing to discover, and that's when I realized about the rhythm too, because the other people that were really good at it, most of them, it seems, had some kind of musical background.
Yeah, so it sounds like back in the day, it's kind of a lot of reworking of the script then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Definitely. I mean, sometimes it just had to be because they were in a hurry. They may have got the script out a little late, or not as quickly as they needed to, but they needed to get to production. Hurry up, we got to do this. There was a lot of recording going on at that studio, and there were shifts at times that we were working on. Like they go, oh, we got an opening at 11 o'clock. Can you come in at 11? And I'm talking PM.
Oh, wow.
Because they had so many things they wanted to get through, and you'd see people lying, not wasted or anything, but just lying on the floor, kind of chilling or talking, and just waiting for their opportunity, waiting for the studio to open up for them, so somebody else finished their session because they were in such a rush. So it was kind of a trip, but a lot of fun. Yeah, it was. Did I say fun? What a strange thing.
You've really
so
enjoyed your
surprised.
career, though. That's great. That's what that tells us. And like you said in the beginning, if you're having fun, you're not really working. So
Yeah.
You've lived that life. We know for sure that.
I continue to live that life. Thank you.
See, there you go.
Yes.
And you've been saying how like the technical process of recording has evolved, like with the 3 beeps and then the 4th silent beep, and in that process. But you've done anime voice acting in titles as recently as Sword Art Online, the Fate series, and et cetera, et cetera. So how would you compare working in modern anime voice acting to back when you started in, let's say, the 80s with with Saban and things like Akira and Fist of the North Star and Dragon Ball?
Well, I think now there's much more. Obviously, the technology has caught up, so to speak, in that there's a lot of things that can be done in post that couldn't be done before, as far as fixing a glitch or this or that, or you came in a little too soon. Let's go back a couple frames. Okay, let's try 2 frames. Okay, that's good. So they'll fix it sometimes where we would have to, in the past, just go, no, you need to do it again. They have the capacity. They have the technology. To make it a lot more smooth as far as the recording session itself. I have to tell you, the audience can't see this, but I don't have my camera on, and it's just the weirdest thing to be looking at 2 people that are looking at not me, but they're looking at me on my computer screen. I'm like looking at your smiles and go, oh, that's so great, and I go, they can't see me. It's a camera issue on my end for anyone listening. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
It's not ego.
But this adds to the voice acting aura, of you being here. We just hear your voices. See, I thought you did this for poetic purposes.
There's still time.
I didn't know it was
There's still time for that.
We'll just say you did.
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
You betcha.
Yeah, you're still having fun even on this interview, So, but that's really amazing. So, in filmmaking, I know a very dangerous phrase can be, oh, we'll fix it in post. But for voice acting, that's actually something that's been really helpful, it sounds like.
Well, it's not something that they have to go away and do. It's right there, instantaneous. And that's kind of the difference is we'll fix it in post. Oh, geez, what are we going to do now? Once the actor's gone, it's like, oh, man, we got a problem sometimes. So in this case, there's very rarely, I think, very rarely any activity beyond that to fix a problem, because the director has such an array of abilities at their fingertips, so to speak.
Wow.
To fix the problem.
Yeah, and so when you're recording today, I imagine it's also just much faster of a process as well, overall.
I would say that's fair. Yeah. I mean, maybe they know more what they want now, more specifically, perhaps. There's been many years now of building a fan base and knowing and understanding what people are looking for, or at least thinking they do, and putting something out until they find out they don't. Hopefully not. I think, well, it is a little faster. One of the things I didn't mention, but I want to, as far as the camaraderie, do you guys know what Walla is?
I don't.
Walla, no.
Okay.
I don't think I could.
Oh boy, now lots of people are going to find out.
Uh-oh.
Walla is background vocals, background voices. Like if you have a scene that's in a cafe, or the other people having dinner, talking over their wine or whatever, you hear glasses clinking and different things. That's Foley. That's another thing. But Walla is those background voices that you don't necessarily want to focus on, but you know they're there. So you as a listener and the viewer, hear a little sound in the background. So a lot of times with fight scenes and things like that, there's a lot of people. And if it's a big crowd scene, there's a lot of different Walla things. So what we very rarely do now, I haven't done in years, was we would all, there'd be like 3 or 4 of us in the booth at the time, and these would be guys that, I did a lot of Walla for, oh my God. I cannot think of the name of it right this second. I am so busted. This is being recorded. You guys know that? Can we fix this in post? Can they hear me now?
There you go.
Oh my God. Yeah. But the Walla sessions were just, it was hard not to just, we'd all be funny people working together and trying to make each other laugh, and the director would be cracking up, and then we got to get this done, guys, just stop. And that was just the best, because it was just riffing with your friends, just hanging out and trying, literally just putting your hands over your face to try not to laugh out loud, or it was just the best. And there's not a whole lot of that anymore. But those are some of my most favorite, my most favorite times, was doing that with people that I really liked. That was just the best.
Wow. So Walla sessions, huh?
Yeah. And the Walla, by the way, I forgot. Thank you. The term Walla comes from, at some point, perhaps originally, they didn't say they didn't say anything. They just kind of went Walla, 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 Walla. Walla, 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 walla.
Wow, okay.
Which sounds like people talking in the background.
Yeah.
So now each show, each movie, there is usually, depending on the size of it, but most often there'll be a Walla group that's brought in to fill in those spaces, or catch a voice that didn't get recorded properly. There was a problem with the wind on the microphone, and they don't want to bring that actor back in and have to pay them a full day's salary, so they'll put it into the contract to do it with a Walla or the dubbing group. So yeah, there's a lot to it, and it's also something that you could do all your life. Basically, I know people that have been doing it for 30, 40 years and making a lot of money doing so. So it's not a terrible thing.
Yeah. No, sounds pretty awesome. And so you haven't dabbled back into the Walla sessions?
Not in a long time. COVID took everybody out of the possibility of being in a studio together, and it's still slowly coming back, but there's still a lot of protocols and everything else.
Yeah. Well, actually, I want to bring it up, and I'm sure you get a ton of questions about this all the time, but one of your most famous anime roles is Byakuya from Bleach, which, back in the day when it was, showing on Toonami, I was tuning in every single time to watch Bleach. And, but that's the significance of that anime is just astounding to, especially our generation, Nigel and I's. And, I just kind of wanted to ask you, did voicing Byakuya give you any unique experiences in voice acting that you haven't encountered before then?
I'm trying to think, but I this was probably the first character that I saw people dressing up as. I saw people cosplaying, and that is a very trippy feeling.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
To go, wait a minute, that looks like, oh wow, that's so cool. They like the characters enough to want to look like him. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, I think that's kind of the first time that I'd seen that happen. And it still blows my mind, and it's still nice to see that and to know that you've contributed to something that had that positive effect on somebody that want to go out and look like it. So.
Yeah, definitely. I remember just watching, and I still remember to this day that I haven't seen Bleach in God knows how long, probably the Toonami days of old, but I still remember your deep voice as Byakuya when you're fighting Ichigo, and just yes, it's so good.
Oh well, thank you.
Brings me joy.
Well, that's great. That's if we can do that, we're doing our job for sure. But yeah, he's just the character again, and I love the character because he was so cool.
He was.
He is so cool. To be that badass and to just be so casual about it. and to not have
Yeah.
to get all
Yeah.
in your face or anything. And that's one of the fun things in a number of different cons that I've gone to. People ask me to say something like Byakuya, and Byakuya, I can't even say the name. Good Lord. Sorry, dude. Don't be mad at me. Do not hit me. No spell, no cast, no. And just to be able to say one word and get people to clap, which was not my intent, but it was just to be able to take a second and go, scatter.
Wow.
And that and the whole thing in one of the movies when he's about to come into full power and take over the scene, when he does the Senbon Sakura Kagayoshi.
Yes.
And that, I mean, the people are applauding in the theater when they hear that. It's just so bizarre. It's just like, it's great, but it's like, wow, we did good. Yes, we did good. So
That's awesome, especially since Bleach, was a long-running series at the
Yeah.
time. It kind of felt like it was never going to end almost, and I kind of wish it didn't.
you're probably not alone in that.
Yeah.
From my own appearance, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm sure it's also kind of trippy to hear people emulate your voice and saying like Byakuya's like famous
Mhm.
lines.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Does that feel weird to you when you see that?
No, I think it's great. It doesn't feel weird to me. It's again just a testament that we put a lot of work into something, and it came out okay. It wasn't just me; it was everyone involved, and that it resonated and continues to, and that's a great pleasure. Yeah, I have a number of friends. One of my closest friends was just a fan. Yeah, he said that. Sure, that was bright. When do we edit that out?
He didn't mean it like
I didn't
that.
mean it. I didn't. No. We're all just fans. No. But I met him. He knew my work from Robotech, and
Robotech days.
yeah, and he's become one of my closest friends, and that was 20 plus years ago. That I was doing a con in Texas, and he was there to try to help me, just kind of helping with the con and try to, make my stay there a good time and everything else kind of.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and just one of the nicest guys in the world. And so, yeah, I just, there's an amazing fan base.
There really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just as much as, anime, you've done a lot of work in video games, it seems, as well, right? So, and video games have a huge fan base as well. So,
Yeah.
we want to take a little bit of time and go on a little detour on shedding some light on your work doing voice acting for video games. And I guess the first thing is the process for voice acting for video games drastically different from that of anime?
Not so much, I don't think. It's basically the same in my experience. It's basically the same setup. You're very rarely anyone but just one person in the booth, and the director is telling you what's going on. A lot of times there's a lot of different battle sequences and things depending on the the game that you're working on. There's a lot of fighting of some kind because I've worked on people fighting for centuries, man. Centuries. They're still doing it. So that's just one of the major things is you maybe have a lot of different battle sounds. I just finished a portion. I'm working on a video game that, of course, I can't tell you what it is.
Of course.
Yeah, I was on the wire. I was like, is he going to say what it is? Like,
I can say that it's scheduled to come out next year, and it's kind of a sequel of something that was a few years back, a follow up. There it is. That's as much as
There's
I
your
got.
hint.
There it is. Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
So that was again a nice surprise, but there were battle there were fighting sequences, and you come up with a sequence like takes light damage, takes medium damage, nearly dead, dies. Sometimes I mean stuff like that, or and then just attitudinal shrugs and kind of like, well. So there's more of that in video games, most certainly, because there's different scenarios that come up depending on who the player chooses or what direction they want to go. So that's a little bit different, and a lot of the battle stuff, because I mean, certainly I've died a few times in anime. That's another story. That's, now I just
You remember everyone. Each one was equally painful.
in a sense, the most painful thought was that it keeps happening. It's like for a period of time, it was like everything that I was cast in, the character died shortly. And so it got to the point where I would say, yeah, quick question. When do I die? What, soon?
You start to
I have a history.
Yeah, you start to wonder, is this personal?
Wait, like I said, what did I do?
Yeah,
right.
Dan, you should maybe start looking at maybe being casted for like romance or school life, something that the characters don't die.
Yeah, good call. I like it. Yeah.
Wow. And I was looking at your recent work. I mean, you've done things in video games as as varied as Fire Emblem to Ace Combat.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty varied. And when it comes to doing the voice acting, what do you? I mean, it seems like you've done just as much varied things in anime and video games. What would you say you enjoy more about video game voice acting as opposed to anime voice acting?
What do I enjoy more? I don't know if I necessarily enjoy it more, but I enjoy it.
That's fair too.
Yeah, it's that challenge that I was just talking about, as far as sounding believable in any battle sequences, sounding believable that you just got stabbed possibly, or got cut on the arm by a sword, or a bullet just caught you in the shoulder, or whatever it might be, but being able to capture a sense of reality, I guess. I think that's, you want to be real in whatever you're doing. But, when you say cartoons, people kind of go, oh, cartoons, you. And so, so there is that kind of a stigma attached to it. But to be able to create the emotions and the reactions that are believable to someone listening, and obviously the animation, they're going to have it down as far as that goes, but just to be able to capture that so that it brings as much reality to it, because a lot of the video games are much more reality based, or based in it. Not all of them, certainly, but there's a lot of stuff that's up to date, war related, different battle things and stuff like that. So so just to be able to bring a truth to the character, and it's not some actor doing this, that's the character. That's what they sound like. That's what they do. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it's hard to imagine, obviously, as someone who's not a voice actor, how you even like visualize that before you have the role and make it your own, like the process of what goes into thinking, okay, this is what it would sound like if this character got stabbed. This is the sound they would make. This is the sound.
Right.
That's mind blowing to think.
Yeah, and again, the good news is you almost always have a director saying, "No, give me a little more," or that, "Yeah, you know what? Let's try a different sound with that." So you've got a little fine tuning to go on, as well as your own intention or your own thought as to how it might go. But yeah, again, being able to see something played back after you've done it, and it fits, and it's believable. It's just really a testament to anybody that's able to do it, because it's not easy by no means, but it's so rewarding when you get it right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just one side question before we move on. Is it physically exhausting when you do like these voice acting sessions? Just wondering,
Totally valid question. Yeah, you have to be careful sometimes not to make extra noise and start doing what they call Foley, which is the sound effects of people putting their hand on a table, or picking up a glass, or moving around, or whatever. You're not supposed to be doing Foley. You're only supposed to be doing the voiceover stuff. So so that's part of it, is just to be aware of that. But jumping around, yeah, sometimes if you're doing a scene when you're supposed to be running, and you've got to find a way to make it sound that way. And if you're punching somebody, as long as there's nobody on either side of you, you can just kind of, it naturally happens. You jump around, your body just starts moving with it, because it's what you would be doing. So yeah, it's pretty funny sometimes to watch voiceover sessions, just to watch the actors or actresses without hearing what they're doing, just to look at them. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, wow.
Well, to get us back onto the track of anime, Dan, I have to ask you, as a voice actor, have you ever heard of the sub versus dub debate?
Yeah, I think one of them, it's a 6-inch sub, and the other one is when they're down a little lower in the ground to eat. I think isn't am I
We
off?
have a comedian with
Oh
us.
God, so sorry. I lost control. I live near a subway, and I lost control.
So I'm guessing you have no idea what I'm talking about.
I have every idea what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over the years, there's been a fight with the fandom. A lot of people have this sub versus dub war, and which is better, and how should you watch anime? It's kind of, I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because they're two completely different things.
Well, and you should watch it any way you damn well please. I mean,
Exactly.
sorry, and you're less of a person because you don't want to hear it in English. Yeah, you are. No, but no, I mean seriously, it's a choice. It's an artistic choice for somebody to what they want to watch, I would think. And so I mean, I would guess that the discrepancy is the people that are into the subtitled realm don't want to take away from the truth and the beauty of the original language and how it works. And the people that want to dub want to hear it in English. The people that appreciate the dub want to be able to relate to it on a language that they know necessarily. Yeah. I mean, that's on a very small level, but that to me seems like the main. I have no opinion either way as far as one being better than the other.
Exactly.
I watch subtitled films. I watch subtitled stuff. It does seem, and I've watched a lot of subtitled anime, but I feel like I guess I can get distracted watching subtitled. And listen, if I'm in a theater or something, certainly not. But if I'm at home, I can get distracted and miss stuff if it's subtitled.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't necessarily miss if I was hearing it. So for me, it's just a silly little sidebar. But yeah, either or. And I've looked at sites periodically. I'll look around just to see what people are saying about stuff, and obviously something I've worked on. Yeah, okay, fine. But not always. But anyway, the comments and it's like the left versus the right, for lack of a better way, and neither one means anything except that one's this and one's that, because the arguments it's like the purists are the subtitled, and the people that are progressive are the dub titles. I don't know, I just made that up. I kind of like it. It's probably wrong, but I kind of like it. So yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah, I think it's quite accurate, actually.
And I'm not saying one's better over the other. It's what you prefer. It's your listening time. What do you like to do? And if you want to try to convince somebody how good your particular choice is, then invite them to listen to it or watch it, and vice versa.
I mean, do you feel like people could be missing out on something if they don't listen to the dub version of an anime? Like, could there be something that they're missing out on that maybe they're just not like really seeing or appreciating, but it's like there?
That's certainly a valid possibility. I don't know if that's necessarily something that occurs, but it's certainly a possibility that you miss some of the nuance, perhaps because you can't catch the nuance in a language you don't speak.
Gotcha.
Where you could catch the nuance in your native language. But beyond that, I don't know. It's a crapshoot there either way.
Yeah.
Again, it's a personal preference thing, I believe.
Yeah, and in our first episode of this season, we actually had a Steve Alpert. I don't know if that name rings a bell with you.
No, I don't know him. I don't think.
He was a
sorry, Steve. I feel bad already, man.
No.
I mean, if I know you and I forgot, I feel really bad, Steve.
Well, he was a former executive of the Studio Ghibli International division, and he one of the things that he said, I can't remember which film, but he mentioned that they did the dubbed version because he was heavily involved with doing the dubbing of the films, Studio Ghibli films, and on one of the dubbed films, he said Hayao Miyazaki was like, that guy who's doing the dub in English, he was like, that's exactly how the character was supposed to sound. He sounds better than the Japanese version of the character.
Oh wow.
And he's
Very
like,
cool.
he's like, in his head,
That's
that
very
is what
cool.
I intended. So yeah, I guess you can achieve, the character and nail the character in a dub just as well as you could in a sub as well.
Yeah, as long as you have the backstory and understand what's going on sufficiently
Yeah.
to bring the full scope of it, because that's so very important.
Right. So I asked you, about your favorite thing about voice acting for video games, and fair enough, you said you didn't know if you had a favorite, but what about favorite thing about voice acting for anime?
That's a novel question. Let me think. Let me
just
think for a minute.
Straight off the dome,
Yeah.
freestyle that one. Yeah.
Boom. One of those. Boom.
Exactly.
I'd probably divide it up a little bit. As far as just being number one, no, but maybe top two, top three. For different reasons, and that's why. Going back to Roy Fokker and Robotech, or like '85, I think, when that first came out. But just the fact of being a part of that bit of anime that was so truthful when so many weren't, as far as what happens with war, what people actually die, that whole kind of a concept of being very real to that reality, that it's not just I shoot as much as I want, nobody gets hurt, but we win. So for my character to die, and what was amazing and still continues to amaze me is that there have been numbers of fans that have told me that they joined the service because of that character, because of the fact that that character had so much compassion, had a life rooted in helping other people and being courteous and caring, and all the things that they thought was right to support the United States, basically. And so that just blows my mind to this day that we were able to capture a character that that resonated so much.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's and it was it was a great character. So a little short-lived in the beginning of the death thing we were talking about earlier, that character. Sorry, Roy. And then Byakuya as well, just because it was such an iconic character, and again, how much I just love the soft projection of power. It wasn't necessary to yell and scream and show you how big I am. Just don't mess with me. There's going to be a problem. That kind of a feel. And that's just so great. And then, as I said, and then having seeing people wanting to dress up as the character. And I mean, there's been a few Roy Folkers I've seen around too, let's be honest. But Byakuya is a little more striking when you see him walk by. And then, and this one is a bizarre choice, and this would be the third one, just because it was so off of what I normally do. But playing Castor in Fate Zero.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, because that was such a crazy character, and just so many ups and downs, and demented, and in love, and crazy, and a horrible person and creature. And so it was just, I was so jazzed when I got that, when I got that job. I was just like, what? Really? They want me? That's so great. Because when he dies, the whole dying sequence is just so off the wall. It's just 170 degrees somewhere, going in some direction, and just crazed. And that's just, man, to get that's not easy. And so to be asked to do that and to pull it off, and it works, it's like, yeah, that's just a great pleasure for me. Anytime I can get cast in something that I would not normally do, and then can kick it, do it, make it work. That's wow, yeah.
Yeah, especially that character. It's so dynamic and features like a lot of things that you have to like kind of work with as a voice actor, I would imagine.
Yeah, most definitely. And even just the depth of the character and what he's there to do. What his purpose is to help another serial killer learn how to do it better. No, you don't have the technique down. Let me work on this with you. And there's one sequence when he tells the guy to wait before he kills his intended victim, because he wants the fear to build a little more. He wants the fear and the tension and the terror of that individual feeling before he goes and kills him. So it builds, and so he's no, wait. It's like, oh God, you're just horrible thing. So it's just to be able to pull that out and make it work. Again, that's one of the beauties of being an actor, is getting the opportunity to do things like that and not hurt anyone.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so those are your three favorites, and you might not have this next one, but what is your least favorite thing about anime voice acting? And it's totally fair if you don't have one, because remember, you've had a lot of fun in this career. I know you have.
I've had a lot of fun.
So there might not be a least.
Give me a second to think if there is anything that actually falls into that category.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, and this is not specific to anime, but specific to working as an actor, is the least favorite thing about it is that you get typecast into specific roles, specific sometimes too, into a realm, and people stop looking at you as a possibility for other things, and it can be a lifetime career and make lots and lots of money doing it. For me, I am always trying to be able to get something else I can do to play something that I haven't played, to be able to tangle with that, to bring that out and make it something worth listening to or watching. So that would be the only thing that I would say that the least favorite thing is that sometimes you get typecast because you're good at one thing. And so they only think of you in that realm. And that, like I said, that doesn't just go for voice acting. It's on camera as well. And the other side of that is if you're very good at one thing and you make a lot of money doing it, it's sometimes hard to try to get away from it. So, it's a little bit of something you can depend on sometimes, which is not always happening with an acting career.
So being that, you don't want to get typecast, that's something that you don't want in your career. Do you often turn down roles?
Periodically. It depends on the time of the year, the time of my wallet, the time of what's going on. But I definitely turn things down, usually for lack of a desire to want to do them, because they're not something that I want to be bothered with, or that I feel I want to add my name to. Would I be embarrassed if I saw my name on the credits? Yeah, I don't want to do that. That kind of a thing. And with the audiobooks that I record, I've turned down a few, and usually they're just headed in a direction politically or excessive religiosity. I made that up. That I don't want to have my name associated with, because I don't believe in the tenets that they're putting out there.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I guess you imagine that when people are offered roles, they just take them, but you never think, okay, well, does this role really fit me as like a person and my morals and beliefs?
Yeah, exactly. I don't have a desire to be, the killer all the time, or any of those things. I mean, sometimes great when it leads up and it's like, you want to put me on Dexter? Fine. I can do that.
Is that a hint this new season?
I wish it were. It's a hint to whoever's listening to this is in a capacity to get me in there. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes. It depends on the moment, the content, any number of factors. But yeah, there will be things I'll turn down because I just don't want to. It's like, no, I don't need the money for now. Keep it. No, but it's good though. I don't feel that you're doing terrible. I just don't want to do it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, wow.
You don't want to burn any bridges either.
There's that.
That's important.
It's
definitely
critical.
So, last question here. We've been really enjoying this talk, and I think both of Jen and I, and we know our listeners will have learned a lot about the anime voice acting and video game voice acting. But for this last question is different.
They're laughing
because it's me. We have this running joke for the Krewe of Japan podcast. We have like a little messaging system, and everyone chooses a series that they want to use as GIFs. So Nigel over here has been using Star Wars GIFs
exclusively.
Exclusively.
Yes.
And our other co-host, who's not here today, sadly, Doug, he's been using Game of Thrones, and I chose Star Trek.
What a lovely choice.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Indeed. And so you know what? I was going to ask this question, but I think Jennifer should ask this question.
What? Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I love Star Trek. So I am a Trekkie.
Mm-hmm.
We're all Trekkies. So let's talk.
Sure.
Star Trek First Contact.
Mm-hmm. I worked on the film for about a month and a half, And on all that time, to be perfectly honest, I'm probably in the movie for about 2 minutes. It blows my mind.
But to be on that set, how was that?
Oh, it was a phenomenal experience. That I as you no doubt saw, I played a Borg.
Yes.
And when we were first getting started, Jonathan Frakes was directing, and Jonathan would try to call, because there's a number of us. There were stunt Borgs, and then there were regular Borgs, and there weren't any Borg stand-ins, and so he would call somebody over, and I just decided to tell him. He says, "Oh, Borg." I said, "I'm Dan Borg." Dan
Borg.
And so I became Dan Borg, and then other people would be, they started using their names, which was awesome. And it was a great, it was quite amazing, because you usually get to the set at 3:30 in the morning, because you needed approximately 5 hours of makeup.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine,
each day. And it took like 2.5 hours to get out of it at night.
Oh, geez.
So it was long days on the set. Just a great experience, though, to be part of that. It was a lot of fun. That being the operative word. And there was certainly, I'm still getting residual checks.
Yeah, I bet.
So it's one of the most fun things. And I remember people at the time that were just so jealous. I had friends, you what? No way. No, what? Who do you know? How did you? Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Like, honest. Right.
And it was pretty funny, because the final casting session, you're in with like producer, director, a couple other people that are behind the desks, and just talking to him for a minute, and then they were like, could you just walk around in a circle, please? I'm like, okay. And found out they were worried that they wanted to make sure that everybody would look good in the costume. They didn't have a big ass, so to speak.
Yeah.
So they would look like weird as a Borg.
Oh,
and I passed the test. Thank you.
Oh, that's good.
But that was just a great experience. And I remember even though the Borgs didn't speak logically, except our lovely queen, Alice. And so that was a fine thing, just to not have to say anything. And it was impossible to be heard anyway, if you could. But that was another intriguing part of it, was conveying, with all this makeup on, trying to convey something that's part of a group, part of a hive, but also try to have a little bit of something that's individual about you. So I had one of my friends that watched the movie, didn't know I was in it, and called me and said, "Hey, I enjoyed what you did in that." And
wow.
Before he saw he knew it was me. He recognized just,
that's awesome.
And that blew my mind completely, because I didn't expect that. But it was a great experience, and I'm delighted that I was able to be a part of it. And they actually pulled one of the sequences from that for the new Picard series. They had one little Borg flashback, and they just put a little plug. I don't even know how long it was. I didn't see it.
Oh wow! I didn't know that. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I need to find that.
I think it's the 3rd or 4th episode of the first season.
Wow. Yeah. Were you in that?
So yeah. They had a number of different Borgs they wanted to identify, and I tried to help them to figure out who they were, and I was one of them, gratefully. So that was like, yeah, I know that guy. That's me. But yeah, and it was a good experience. We got really nice like leather Letterman's jackets with the Star Trek logo on them. Cool. Just beautiful. So yeah, they did us well, and Jonathan Frakes was just wonderful to work with.
That's awesome. He was
absolutely just the nicest guy, and he was able to get things done, and it was a good experience.
So it is.
That's awesome.
You can confirm it is as fun as it seems to work on a Star Trek movie or show.
Oh yeah, I mean, when it was drinking too much water and you had to run to the bathroom, and that was not fun, because there was a lot of effort to just take care of that. That was like, oh, you seriously? Okay, can you help me with this? All right, okay, because you really, one person couldn't do it. You needed help. You needed an assistant. So that was a weird part. But other than that, hell yeah, I'm delighted.
Well, yeah, that question was totally for me.
Yeah,
Sorry, my
yeah.
listeners, that I took you away from anime. I just needed to know.
Yeah.
The Trekkie in me needed to know.
Everyone's like, what does that have to do with Japan again? But we
Nothing.
had to know.
Absolutely nothing.
When were they in Japan? What?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Although I've heard Star Trek in Japanese is amazing. So
Yeah.
maybe there's a little connection there, but well, it's a stretch.
Yeah, here's the anecdote on that. In the 60s, there was a show, Lost in Space, you may have seen. And it was, typical early 60s production values. And they had a robot that Robbie the robot, no, it wasn't Robbie. It was just a robot. I forget what his silly name was. But he would, whenever there was a problem, he would just say, danger, Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson. And that was kind of cool. But then I was at the Salton City, which is near Mexico. Here in California, it's close to Mexico, close to the border. And so there were a lot of Spanish channels. And I got to watch it in Spanish. And it was just such an awesome thing to see this guy walking around going, Cuidado, Will Robinson. Cuidado, Will Robinson.
Nice.
It was so cool. I started cracking up. I remember that vividly.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. But yeah, any Lost in Space episode, the robot appears, you'll see what I'm talking about. It was probably a little person or somebody that wasn't real tall in this costume, because it was like vacuum cleaner arms, and it's pretty funny.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, that was our last question, obviously, but we really enjoyed this interview. Thank you so much for coming on. I've been telling the guys on the podcast, like, I've been wanting to have a voice actor on just to talk about voice acting, because I do find that's really intriguing and important, especially for the anime community. So I'm really glad you were able to come on. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you for having me.
It means the world to me.
No, we had a wonderful time. I had, what is it? Fun. I had fun.
You had fun. That's great. Awesome. Add the Krewe of Japan to your fun list.
Yeah. Yes, I will. And great questions, Nigel and Jennifer. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Is there anything that you could pitch for us? Maybe like things that you're working on that like our listeners can go check out?
Well, I've got, as I mentioned, there's quite a few books I've recorded out there, audiobooks, and one that might be of interest to some of the listeners would be The Ultimate History of Video Games, which I recorded.
Oh, wow.
And it's a pretty cool book. There's some interesting stuff in there, because I talked to somebody that's very much into it. He says, yeah, that's a good book. Good book. And I said, oh, good. Thank you.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but I have close to 200 titles I've recorded of a lot of different genres and things. So if anybody cares to check it out, you can listen to samples. It's free to listen to samples. That's the way it should be with food all the time.
Maybe not in the age of COVID, but
yeah, you may be right. Never mind. We can edit that in post. We got that covered. So I'm very lucky to be able to do that and try to be a little storyteller and maybe learn a little something too. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on, and we really appreciate it. And continue being you and having fun and doing an awesome job, because it's paying off.
Absolutely.
I got to be me now? Are you serious?
Uh-oh.
But remember, just like that Byakuya, you don't have to technically be mean to be menacing. So,
No, I
you
don't.
do a really good job.
I will not be mean.
Well, like Jen said, I echo it. Thank you so much for coming on. And I think for listeners, go check out Dan's, resume, because there is a good chance, if you listen to this podcast, that he has voiced something that you have watched or played as a video game or even read as a book. So Also, Dan will be appearing at the Pasadena Comic Con convention on January 23rd, 2021. So if you're around and in the area, stop by and see the master himself at work. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on. We really appreciate it, and keep having fun.
Thank you, Nigel. Thank you, Jennifer. This was indeed fun, and I appreciate you making it so easy. And look forward to talking to you again soon.
And that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Krewe of Japan podcast. In today's episode, we talked about anime, sub versus dub. Which version do you prefer watching, sub or dub? Have you ever watched an anime in dub before? What was your favorite? Share with us on our social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Krewe Japan Podcast. That's KREWEOFJAPAN Podcast. While you're there, subscribe and let us know how you're enjoying the podcast. That's it for today. Until next time.